Well, konbanwa minasan. Good evening, everyone. And I got a lot on my mind, having a bit of trouble sleeping, so especially with this new top 50 rappers of all time list, which I really didn't agree with. I guess you could say it clashes with my personal opinion. I decided I was going to make my own list based on personal favorites, what I find are the best based on skills and overall their music, not so much just popularity and success, right? Sales and whatnot. But making this, I realized as I'm writing down a list of all the rappers I could say I listened to and liked at some point, I came up with like around 200 names. So even trying to narrow it down to 100 was quite a challenge. And uh, let's just say it's kind of hard to put them in a specific order. So I'm just going to count them down as we go through the list. I will type each one in the chat as we go. And yeah, we'll go from 100 to 1. So first off at 100, we have Killer Priest. He is a Wu Tang affiliate. I actually really loved his album Heavy Mental, and he's had some dope guest appearances. Like, I love that he got the solo track Bible, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth on GZA's album Liquid Swords. And his verse on the fourth chamber of GZA's album, Liquid Swords, fantastic. Heavy Mental was really good. And then even his guest appearances on songs with the Gravediggers, those were fire verses. Especially Diary of a Madman and The Graveyard Chamber. Phenomenal. So yeah, 100 Killer Priest. Next, I have 99, which is Granddaddy YU. IU, sorry. Granddaddy IU. And the reason I pick him is, interestingly enough, he almost didn't make the cut because there's newer rappers I felt to try and have a more well balanced and rounded list. I was going to include some of them, but I always remembered his guest appearances on songs like The Graveyard with Big Al and Large Professor's song. Hold on, I'm gonna have to look up what that song was. It's been so long since I listened to this album. I used to have it on CD. My ex took it and screwed around with it, but I used to have this Large Professor album called Professor at Large, right? And I honestly consider this one of the last really pure hip hop albums. In fact, I felt like it was a masterpiece. Like, it was such a good album that I really, really loved it. Um, of course, I'm clicking on it, and for some reason, it doesn't want to actually take me to the album track listing or anything. Um, Hold on, let's see if I can just find a track listing, just so I can. Okay, yeah. I'm looking at Discogs right now. Okay. Because if I see the title, I'll remember it. Mac Don Ills. And I mean, I loved everything on this album, which is why you will hear Large Professor's name come up later. But man, Granddaddy IU had the best verse on this song. It was so dope. And I always remembered that. And then I remembered, hey, ain't that the guy who had the last verse on Big L's The Graveyard? Yeah, yo, that guy's tight. I'm like, I never really heard that much of him, but he was slick, right? So I ended up listening to his first album today, right? Um his first album, Smooth Assassin. Hearing that, I was like blown away. Like this guy was a master at punchlines. Like I could see where Big L got the influence, where a lot of rappers after him got the whole idea of really making punchlines a strong foundation in their style. Because this guy was like talking about how he charged at you like a rhinoceros, and if you thought you were better than him, it was preposterous and shit like that. And I was like, yo, this guy is slick. He is smooth, which is crazy because he actually called his first album Smooth Assassin. And man, perfect title for a record because the man's nice. So because of that, I'm like, okay, I gotta put this guy on the list. Now, like I say, I'm not trying to be so much definitive with this list, meaning like all 100 of these rappers are all really good. And keep in mind, as I was making a list of 200, I cut out 100 other rappers that I do like still. And maybe I'll do an extended version with all 200 in the future. But for now, we'll just get to our main 100. So next at 98, we have Sticky Fingers from the rap group Onyx. And even solo, I mean, that verse he drops on Remember Me for Eminem's track, he kills it. Like Sticky Fingers is a beast. He has that iconic, really intense, scary voice, which reminds me a bit of the DOC. It's very raspy, very dark, edgy, but his lyrics on top of that is what makes him so intense as a rapper. Like he has this crazy, scary voice. Like he almost sounds like he'd be this crazy like villain or even a demon coming to kill you. But then he's got like these crazy, intricate, like woven lyrics that are so good. Like all the dudes in Onyx are pretty good. Sanzi was good. Big DS, rest in peace, was good. Fredro Star, Sticky Fingers cousin was good. But if I was to pick one member from that group, I gotta go with Sticky Fingers because, in my opinion, I felt like he was the hardest, but also the most lyrical. So yeah, he falls in at number 98. Then we have 97, Cameron. Now, Cameron is really good. In fact, I feel like Cameron actually was at his best before he even became that big of a rapper. Like you look at when he was just Killer Cam and he made one of his first record appearances on Eight Is Enough on Big L's album because they were cool. They actually had a rap group together with Mace, Bloodshed, and Herb McGruff, Killer Cam, Cameron, and Big L called Children of the Corn. And they were, I'll put it this way, if they had actually got to make like a full album when Big L and Bloodshed were still alive, they would have been like a phenomenal supergroup. And the sad thing is, Big Al and Bloodshed both died before that could happen. But Cameron, even as a solo artist after that, I mean, his first album didn't really sell that well, and it wasn't like the big commercial success people expected it to be. But yet, I actually feel like that's his best album. Like, I feel like he was doing things his own way. It made it a little less commercial, but overall, there is some fantastic songs like Horse and Carriage. There's the song D Rugs. That's probably my favorite song on the record. Like his storytelling ability, and the whole time he's telling this story, you think he's talking about this guy named D Ruggs, who, he was messing with his mom, kind of pimping her, and then the next thing you know, Cameron becomes cool with this D Ruggs. And then you realize by the end of the song, she's getting cardiac arrest. He's getting arrested by the cops. And that's why you don't fuck with drugs. And that's what I mean. Like, to carry the whole story where he's personifying it so accurately that drugs is like a person. D Ruggs, this guy named D Ruggs. You think, man, this D Ruggs guy, he's a cold motherfucker. He's like some ruthless, like gangster pimp, right? And then you find out by the end of the song, no, no, no. D Rugs is drugs, which hence the title, right? But I love that he personifies it so well. And that's one thing Cameron was so good at that I feel is underrated. Like as a storyteller, that song proves he was phenomenal at that. And then there's other times where he comes up with some really clever, unexpected lines, which is why he also later became the member of Dipset, right? So next at 96, we have Snoop Dogg. Now, I know he's a big legend and everything, and I'll put it this way. A lot of his later stuff isn't really my forte. It's not really my favorite stuff. But I give him props for Doggy Style, a flawless debut album, which is kind of crazy historically because he was on trial for murder when this was like selling, and it was selling like hotcakes. I mean, Dr. Dre's beats, all the guests on there, even the DOC who had been in a car accident and crushed his larynx makes an appearance on this doing scary backup vocals, right? Like RBX was killing it, Corrupt, Daz, Warren G raps on it, Nate Dogg's on it. Like just the combination of all these people makes it a phenomenal album. And the interesting thing is, some people speculate that Dr. Dre didn't produce as much of it as people originally thought. So I'm not sure if that's true. It could be true that most of it was handled by Daz and Warren G. But I do feel like some songs, probably What's My Name and Gin and Juice, were handled by Dr. Dre. And I say that because he does vocals on those songs. So he probably, if he didn't fully produce it, he probably co produced it at least, right? So, and he probably did maybe a bit other work on the album overall. But if Daz produced it, I could see that. And if not, like, it sounds like it could be Dr. Dre. So it was a very convincing lie if it was. So for Doggy Style alone, I gotta put Snoop on this list. But also because you know what, there is moments when Snoop has like done some really phenomenal like tracks later on and then guest appearances like the stuff he did with Pac. That stuff was great. Um the appearances on Dr. Dre's records, like The Chronic and 2001, um, things like that. And then I mean, even when he's doing songs like Drop It Like It's Hot, Beautiful, Imagine, like he's got some good songs under his belt. Maybe not my overall favorite, and I don't really think he's the greatest, but he could freestyle good. I gotta give him that. Like considering that's what he started as. He's good at that. And I mean, songs like Murder Was the Case too really cement that, he was a dude from the streets who could tell you all these stories, but he could also make fun partying kind of music, even living in that gangster lifestyle. And Snoop is kind of a pioneer of that. So yeah, that's why he falls in at number 96. I gotta try to move it along. I'll be up all night if I'm sitting here describing every one of these. So, okay, 96 was Snoop Dogg. Number 95 goes to Nature, a very underrated rapper. Nature started as a member of the firm. That's when he got put on, and he was originally Cormega's replacement. And a lot of people kind of hated the Firm album for that. Cormega perhaps would have made it more authentic and we would have got more of a picture of what affirmative action on Nas's album was supposed to be when Cormega was on it. But I think Nature held his own pretty well. And I feel like it's kind of unfair to compare Nature to Cormega because they're very different. They're both good rappers, but for different reasons. Now, I'd also say Nature is good because you look at the verse he spits on Banned from TV on Noriega's album. That verse is fire. And I mean, when he came back and did that verse for Mega Philosophy on Cormega's album, when they like made peace and worked together, that was fire too. In fact, I that's why I say I don't think it's fair to compare the two, because on that song in particular, I actually think he out raps Cormega. Not always, but on that song, he brought his A game and he killed it in a level like I could not have anticipated. And you look at other songs where he was on Desperados, 5 Minutes to Flush, I think it's called. Things like that. Nature was quite skill. He just was very underrated and he didn't really have the best career going into it. But shout outs to the dude. Like for reals, actually he did agree he would make a song with me. I'd have to give him $1,000, which being broke on disability, I ain't got the money for that. But if ever I did, I'd definitely call Nature up and he'd be rapping on one of my records because we cool like that. Like he even said, like, I need to cover the fee, the publishing, all that, book studio time to do the verse. You understand? Like it's a business. He's gotta pay to even go record the do the verse and all that, right? So and he wants to do it right. Plus, make a little make a couple pennies for his thoughts, basically. So, and I dig it. I got respect for him. So, shout outs, Nature. If I ever get the money together, I'm gonna definitely throw you on a song because you tight. I got respect. You got respect for me. So, much love and peace always. Nature for real is a cool dude like that. Like, and as we go through this list, you will notice there is a few rappers I actually have talked to that agreed to make songs with me if ever I came up with the budget. But unfortunately, I ain't got investors. As I said, I'm on disability. It's hard to, get the funds to put these people on songs. I love it. Probably further my career, but nobody invested in me. I'm a white guy from Canada. I got all the odds stacked against me. So it doesn't even matter how nice I am, trust me. Because if so, I'd be the biggest star in hip hop right now because I'm probably one of the best lyrically nowadays of the newer generation of rappers and MCs. Next, we have, interesting. At 94, we have Fat Joe. Now, I know there's the big controversy with this one because he doesn't write his own lyrics, and it's kind of common knowledge. Like either Triple Seis, Armageddon, Big Pun, back in the day, they were writing his lyrics, and because they were so nice, Fat Joe did have some hot records. I mean, Flo Joe was probably Armageddon, I'm guessing. Um, Probably a lot of the stuff from Jealous One's Envy was Armageddon and Pun. And then by the time he was doing Don Cartagena, the Terror Squad album, and all that, that was probably Triple Seis was brought in the mix to write some stuff for him too. And I could see that because you could hear the differences in their flows when they're writing for Joe. But Joe has some hot records. I mean, all three of those first albums all are so good. I mean, I love The Fat Gangster. I love Jealous One's Envy. And I love Don Cartagena. Like, those three albums are masterpieces. He might have screwed Pun's family over unfairly. I don't really like that. I disagree with that. That's because I got so much love for Pun. But other than that, like, and he doesn't write his own stuff, so I can't really say like he's the most lyrically gifted MC either. But he's got some hot songs, and I can give him that. Like, regardless of what opinion is, how good he is as a lyricist, and how he is as a person, it'd be biased to say that he did not make good music because he made some fire shit. He straight up did. So I'm gonna give him his props, and I hope nobody's offended. And like to all the other people in Terror Squad, it's like I'm not putting everybody in Terror Squad on this just because not a lot of y'all got your feet off the ground. But just so that they know there's no disrespect, shout outs to Triple Seis, shout outs to Cuban Link and Prospect, who all agreed to make songs with me if I had certain amounts of money for them, right? So there's love and respect there, and I love y'all as lyricists. Y'all are crazy because they all wrote their own lyrics and they were all tight. So yeah, Cuban Link, Triple Seis, Prospect, All Much Love. And Armageddon, oh my God, I wish Armageddon had gotten his chance to get on, because Armageddon next to Pun, no disrespect to Cuban, because I'd say my three favorite members in Terror Squad were Armageddon, Big Pun, and Cuban Link. Like those three, I felt like they could have just been stars on their own. They were so good. And like Triple Ace too, I felt like with the right promotion to really polish up his talent, he could have been great too. And I almost made a song with him too. I wish I could have. Just didn't have the money. We kind of fell out. Same with Prospect. And Prospect was nice too. I mean, Prospect was the dude Pun insisted they bring on. Same with Cuban Link and Triple Ace, right? Armageddon was Joe's band, and Armageddon was tight too. So much love and shout outs to all of them, because they were all great lyricists. Fantastic. And they're not on this list, unfortunately, but that's why I'm taking this time to give up like sort of honorable mention shout outs, because lyrically they were so nice. They in a league of their own. They're beyond this list. And some of the other rappers later on we'll get to are beyond this list too, but just to keep things in perspective, right? So, okay. Next at 93, we have Craig Mack. Craig Mack was dope. I mean, straight up, he was the first artist on Bad Boy Records to have a hit single. Flavor in the Ear was big. His record was selling big. In fact, he was selling before Biggie really had that much going for him. It wasn't until Biggie hopped on the remix that everything started to generate a big buzz for Biggie. And I feel like if Puffy didn't sabotage his career and he didn't go through all the ups and downs and the things he went through, I think Craig Mack could have been way bigger, because you listen to Flavor in the Ear and some of the lyrics he's kicking is so advanced and futuristic. Like he was a smart dude. He was wild and stuff, but you listen to him where he's like, I got the data to turn your body into antimatter. Like he has the data, the knowledge to turn your body into antimatter, meaning matter that no longer exists. I'm like, to even think like that, you a sharp dude. Like straight up. May he rest in peace too. It's very sad that he died and that Puffy screwed him and all that shit. Diddy's really an asshole. That's what's coming to light recently in all the news. But poor Craig Mack, may he rest in peace. He was a real G. Like a lot of his peers, people he worked with, like Eric Sermon and Redman and Keith Murray, they all had respect for him, which is why they put him in some of their videos. They worked with him too after things fell through with Bad Boy. And the sad thing is too, is like if it weren't for him, Bad Boy Records never even would have got off the ground. So yeah, much love, rest in peace. Next at 92, we have Talib Kweli, a member of Black Star, and his I want to say, I'm not sure if it was his debut album, but it was the one with Around My Way. Let me look up and see. Yeah, The Beautiful Struggle. Oh my God, I love that record. And I remember when I first heard Around My Way, the Police sample, John Legend singing the chorus, and that was some of the most amazing, profound lyricism I ever heard on that song. Like, that's what showed me, yo, okay, I gotta watch out. When this dude is rapping, he's gonna give some very profound, incredible lyricism. So, of course, his stuff with Black Star was tight. He did a lot of other tight records, but I will always remember, like, Beautiful Struggles, The Beautiful Struggle, I mean, that has got to be one of my favorite albums of that year, like that time period, because that was something that was so nice. And I mean, you look at his other appearances, like stuff he did with Pharoah Monch, um, the appearance he did on Chrisette Michelle's album, Let Freedom Reign with Black Thought. Oh man, dude's nice. Like he's very complex and intelligent. Like that's what I love about him. And he really represents his hood too. He's very down for Brooklyn. So yeah, shout outs to Talib Kweli. Mad dope nice rapper. And yeah, next we get into 91, which is Warren G. And oh man, Regulators, the G Funk era. I mean, that album alone, that that was one of the most smooth records to ever come out in its time. That record actually saved Def Jam from folding as a label because it sold that much. It worked really well because they needed a G Funk album to compete with Death Row at the time, something that could sell that was G Funk music. And because Warren G was great rapper, great producer, and he was stepbrothers with Dr. Dre, he knew how to deliver a G Funk record that was different, it was clean, it was smooth, it could get radio play, had fucking such nice, dope, funky, mellow beats. Like that record, start to finish, is just, oh man. It's one of those few hip hop albums that you could just put on and relax to. You don't gotta stress, you don't gotta worry about the gangster stuff they talking about. You just listen to the music and let everything unwind, right? Right? So, what I've decided, because we've already been going for 25 minutes, we're going to break this down into four parts. We'll do 25 each episode. We'll call this episode one. So, let's try and get up to 76, and then we'll continue from 75 tomorrow. You dig? So, next we have 90 with Raekwon. Now, Raekwon is a great member of the Wu-Tang Clan. He has delivered some fire lyrics. He's a really cool dude. His work with like Ghostface Killer on Only Built for Cuban Links. His appearances on songs with like Mobb Deep and, you know, other Wu members. He always brings to the forefront, like, that hustle and mentality, because he really was one of the real deep in the streets dudes. And the way he's got that style, I mean, I'll put it this way, he often gets compared to Biggie, but you look at the time period, he came out first. It's just a coincidence they had similar things. But the interesting thing is, I don't think either of them ripped each other off, because I could take it back a step further. They were both influenced by, the turns and the cadences that Rakim used before them. And that was a big influence with them. That's what I hear with that is, I hear the Big Daddy Kane, I hear the Rakim with their cadences and stuff. And they both were nice. Plus, Raekwon is a cool dude too. For reals, much love. Shout outs to Raekwon, because this is another dude who said he would make a song with me. He wants 8 grand though. I ain't got no 8 grand. Like the same way I was telling you, like Cuban Link, he would want 3 grand. Triple Six wanted 1,200. Prospect wanted 400, which is the best deal. But I lost contact with him. I couldn't give him the money at the time, and he got mad at me, and we had a falling out. But much love and respect to all of them. And same with Raekwon. And like I said, what makes Raekwon dope, like if I was to say my favorite verse of his, I love his verse on the Seventh Chamber. I love his verse on Protect Your Neck. And then the other verse, my top three verse, is The Mystery of Chess Boxing. Everybody on that song is so good. Yet, I'll put it this way. When Raekwon raps his verse, I get just hyped. It's not even so much just what he's saying, it's how he delivers it that I'm like, you get into it, you get hype with it. His lyrics are great, but the way he delivers it with this hypeness, it's at a perfect point in the song, because Inspector Deck starts, well, it goes Yuga. Yuga starts off nice and smooth. He's kicking really complex stuff. Yuga had another one of my favorite verses on that. And then Inspector Deck comes in. He's gunning for you. And it's so intense and rigid, but so technical and flawless. Raekwon comes in and kind of loosens up the tension a bit. He gives you a room for reprise. And then Big Dad, Old Dirty Bastard comes in, sorry. And he comes in with this way different style. And that's actually one of Old Dirty Bastard's best verses ever on a Wu record. It's The Mystery of Chess Boxing. Like, it's so complex. But he's like using his drunken master Bismarcky influenced style to just kind of throw you off. You don't know where he's gonna go with it. So you're really kind of like, okay, what happens next? And then from there to go into Ghostface Killer, who's just assassinating the track, and then Master Killer brings it home with like the grand finale of verses ever. Like, but Raekwon, he gives you that breather because of what's coming. And it's not that he's not good. In fact, he's extra good because he kind of allures you in with the smoothness of his style that you really don't expect what's coming next, which is what makes that great. So next we have because that was 90. At 89, we have Corrupt from the Dog Pound. Now, Corrupt, he is a beast rapper. Like, he is so good that, like, I'm even trying to think of what my favorite verse is. Like, part of me wants to say, like, Checkout Time with Tupac. Another one wants me to say Got My Mind Made Up. But then I look at, like, songs he did, like Stranded on Death Row. Um, You know, he's got so many verses, and then you look at all the stuff he did with the Dog Pound. I mean, Daz was good. Daz was a fantastic beat maker, but lyrically, Corrupt was like a machete, man. He just cuts that track up, man. Like he's devastating. Like you hear Corrupt and you realize you got a problem. Like if I was being honest, Snoop Dogg's more famous. He's a big star and all that, but lyrically, I always thought Corrupt was more sharper and nicer than Snoop. Just on a real level. Like we comparing their overall skill with lyrics, Corrupt could do all these different styles, and you don't know where he's gonna hit you with next. And he uses really quick lyrics and complex like rhymes, and he'll take things you didn't expect him to go with that, and he'll make it work. Like, and he'll cut you with that. Like he'll pull out the switchblade, and you just don't see it coming. Right? That's Corrupt style for reals. And then next we have ODB, who I was just talking about. May he rest in peace. He's no longer with us. Also shout outs to Raekwon. Hopefully, I mean not Raekwon, Corrupt, because I hear he's got some health problems right now. Hopefully he recovers from whatever he's going through. But yeah, next on to 88, we have Old Dirty Bastard, ODB. And I mean, probably one of the most unique, funny, charismatic, wild, crazy MCs. And people say he ain't got no father to his style. But you hear the Biz Markie. If you know the history of hip hop and you really listen to Biz Markie enough, you could see ODB loved Biz Markie. And that's where the wild funniness to his style comes. But he still makes it his own. It's still his own unique. I think he really loved the Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. So he took like elements of Biz Markie, mixed it in with the Drunken Master, and added the whole Wu Tang Kung Fu elements to it. Kung Fu elements to it. And that's what made ODB. And I mean, he did great appearances on other people's stuff. You look at Ghetto Superstar, you look at Fantasy, the remix with Mariah Carey. Like this guy was a star, and may he rest in peace. It's so sad, like with all the drugs, all the problem. He was a wild dude. I mean, I heard Big Daddy Kane tell me this one story, like in an interview, and I was like, "Yo, this guy was just larger than life." And lyrically, like I say, you listen to stuff he did, like the mystery of chess boxing. He was crafty. He was wild. He was crazy. He was the life of the party. But don't get it twisted. He was a smart dude because when he's talking about the hip hop rotisserie and all this stuff, like in the mystery of chess boxing, you could tell, like he's going through the motions with the groove, but he's thinking of that next level line to drop that's just gonna really catch you off guard, like a Jackie Chan drunken master style, and he hits you with that effectively. So yeah, ODB is dope. May he rest in peace, old dirty bastard. So next at 87, we got Vex the Vortex from the Boogie Monsters. Actually, one of my favorite rap groups. and probably one of the most underrated rap groups. Like if you don't know them, go check them out. Go check out. I believe it's called. Let me look it up just to make sure. I don't want to give anybody the wrong album title, but Boogie Monsters, Riders on the Storm. I think it's called. Yeah, Riders of the Storm. Okay, yeah, go listen to that and listen to like all their big songs, like Strange and the recognized thresholds of negative stress, Honey Dips in Gotham. You listen to that whole first album, even their second album after Mind Trick and Yoda Red left to become pastors, right? Because they were actually a gospel rap group that mixed like psychedelic elements to their music, like the Doors. So musically, they had this really funky, wild, psychedelic original sound, and they had live band instrumentation play on their records, which gave it this full, amazing, powerful sound. Like the bass, you could tell that's a real bass player ripping it. And then you got real keys, you got all this wild stuff. Their music was crazy. But as far as Vex's lyricism, so underrated. And I feel like if the Boogie Monsters had continued on, or if he had went solo and had a successful career, people would know how good he was. But if you don't know how good Vex the Vortex is, go check out the Boogie Monsters records. Like, for example, with Honey Dips in Gotham, he does the first verse, just so y'all know who I'm talking about. And yeah, you hear him rap on that, man, his lyricism was incredible. He also did the first verse on um the beginning of the end on the second album. Just for an example, right? Yeah. Vex was nice. So underrated. And like I said, if you don't know, you don't know. But trust me, you would hear him and you'd be like, yo, this guy is tight. No joke. Like for me to put him on this list, all those Boogie Monsters were dope. Mondo was dope. Shout outs to him. The funny thing is, I actually talked to one of the. I could have made a song with Vex for 500. Didn't have it, but I also talked to my yeah okay. Mind Trick was Sean. Ivor was Jedi yeah. Or Red Eye. I never got clear what that dude's name was because he really only mostly danced and he did a couple rapping appearances. Like you listen to Riders on of the Storm, that the self-titled song, and then you listen to Altered States of Consciousness, which is probably one of my favorite songs. They all do a verse and they're all so good. He like Ivor did the fourth verse on that, and he's so good on that song. Like they really could have had potential, but they felt like the music industry is controlled by Satanism. They needed to, become pastors, leave it, find their faith or whatever, and became Seventh Day Adventists, which I used to be Seventh Day Adventist. That's kind of how I heard about this and know about it. But on the real tip, yeah, the Boogie Monsters were tight, straight up. So yeah. Anyways, let's see. We are at 86. Joel Santana. Okay, this dude was so nice when he first freestyled for Cameron. He immediately put him in Dipset, and he was young. And I mean, you listen to like his first album; it was really good. And then he dropped "What the Game's Been Missing." He had that big song, "Oh Yes." Oh man, I'll put it this way: for such a poppy, laid back song, that was my jam, man. Like that song. And then, like I said, you see freestyle videos of Joel Santana or you hear him in the Dipset stuff. Yo, this guy was sharp. In fact, that's why Cameron put him in the group. Like 100%. I never really was a big fan of Jim Jones, right? It was another big member. I really never cared for his style. And I like Cameron, but I always thought, Joel's though. He's the real star in this group, and I think Cameron knew that because he was incredible with some of the stuff he would spit, right? For reals. And then I'm pretty sure he did a song with Chris Brown. I forget what it was. I'll have to look that up because I remember, if I'm thinking it right, he actually had a really dope verse on that too. Let's see. I wish I could remember. Run it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Run it. Run it. Right, right, right. That's what it was called. I remember. And I remember I didn't really ever like Chris Brown or care for Chris Brown. But I liked that song because Jewels was hot on that shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. He was such a good rapper. He could make an artist I didn't really care for, a song I wouldn't have really liked otherwise, hot because he had it popping. You know what I'm saying? So next we get to oh, this is a really good one. King T at number 85. Now, I don't know if y'all know who King T is. I first heard King T. I mean, I know he was in a rap group called the Alcoholics, which I'll have to listen to them because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I got to get more acquainted with some of these legends because I don't know that much of their music, but I'm just speaking on like how I could see how good they were lyrically from what I heard. I heard King T on that I heard him on what you call it, when Dr. Dre released his second album, The Aftermath, right? Um he did a couple songs on that. He did Straight Gone and Fame. And he was also on some LANIGGAZ because I'm not going to say that word. But that album, King T's presence on that album was one of the highlights. As far as the rapping, King T was dope. And I mean, like I said, he was also in this crew called the Alcoholics, right? And it was a young trio of rappers. It had Tash, J. Rowe, and E. Swift. It also basically the trio was the Liquid Crew. The Liquid Crew also had Exhibit in it at one point. It's kind of a complicated history, right? But yeah, you look at like his music, it's like he was nice, man. He was nice. I mean, it's sad Dr. Dre really didn't help him get his career going once he signed to Aftermath because I mean, Straight Gone was one of my favorite tracks. And I mean, um what was that other track too I was talking about? Fame. Y'all, his verse with the David Bowie sample, the dun 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 dun. Like, I'm amazed people didn't like that album. Like, people say that album was a flop, yet it sold over 1 million. I mean, I guess compared to other Dr. Dre albums, that would be considered a flop. But then you look at Compton. Compton barely went gold. And that shit was whack. Straight up, I love Dr. Dre. I love all the classic records. I like the Aftermath, but I didn't like Compton. So that's got to say something in itself because Compton was a disappointment. Whereas I kind of knew what I was getting into with the Dr. Dre Presents the Aftermath. I knew it wasn't going to be solidly a Dr. Dre album. The thing is with that record, right? It's Dr. Dre giving other artists a shine because he's forming his new label. And if you go into that just looking for great music that Dr. Dre produced and is working together with the artist on the label with, it's actually incredible. Like, it's some really good songs. Like, I could break it down for you. Like, the Aftermath, the intro with RC, Sharif, and Sid McCoy. And then the second track, so underrated, East Coast, West Coast Killers, which featured a super group called Group Therapy. This had RBX, who had been on Death Row, the great KRS-One, Be Real of Cypress Hill, and Nas. And I mean, Scarface is actually doing the intro in the beginning and he's in the video, but not on an actual record track. But this song is phenomenal. It's such a good song. It's got such a great beat. Like, it's fresh. Dr. Dre isn't on it, but that's the whole point. It's not about Dr. Dre in this case. It's about what Dr. Dre could do with music behind the boards. And that's the whole point, what makes it good. Then you got Shitting on the World, Melman, Dr. Dre, producing, Melman rapping, Blunt Time with RBX getting a solo. Been There, Done That, where Dre does take the solo. A lot of people didn't like that. I love Been There, Done That because it showed maturity. It had a really I love that beat. That beat might actually be one of my favorite Dr. Dre beats ever because of the unique sound to it. It really has that dark mid 90s Y2K apocalypse could be coming, end of the world vibe to it. That it's so haunting and cool. Like I love Been There, Done That. Not everybody does, but I do. Then you got Choices, which is this really funky R&B jam. I love that because of the beat sampling Isaac Hayes, Look of Love, and everything. The vocals on it are great. As the World Keeps Turning, I'll put it this way, that really is showing the progression, like them evolving. The world could be coming to an end. Hands On with an R&B group was an R&B group. They did Got Me Open next with Dr. Dre, right? And Dr. Dre rapped on it. They sang. I actually really like that because that had this really unique, weird beat. And then, yeah, like I said, Straight Gone, King T gets his chance to shine. Then you got Please with it's like a duet between Nicole Johnson, Maurice Wilcher, Do for Love, Gerald Lockhart, R&B stuff. So this is why a lot of people were confused by the aftermath. Then you got Sexy Dance, which is Cassandra McCowan, Gerald Lockhart, and RC all singing. And then you got No Second Chance, Who's Who, R&B group. You got Law, which is Sharif, produced by Scooby Doo, co-produced by Dre. Then you got National with Christian Nolan. That's a pretty fire track. Like both those tracks are some hard rap, but different, kind of styles. It really showcases Dr. Dre, like even just being a co-producer, letting some of the producers he's brought on work the biz. And then you got The Ender, Fame. Dr. Dre, Chris the Glove Taylor producing, Gerald Lockhart and RC singing. And then you got King T, who delivers one of the most phenomenal verses about the struggles of fame, the good and the dark sides. And that is one of the most real, raw verses ever, which is why I had to put King T on this list because I really wish he could have made more of a career for himself just hearing how good he was on that track. You dig? And Straight Gone, of course, which is just, it's balling. So, all right, we've been on King T for a while. Next, we get into OC. OC is a member of Digging in the Crates crew. He worked with Big Al, Lord Finesse, Showbiz and AG, Fat Joe, all these kind of dudes. He was tight. He had a really unique style. He had some success, never probably as much as he should have. But I mean, OC was great because his style was so different that it blended well. Because think about it like this, right? In Digging in the Crates, when they made their album, they've got AG, Andre the Giant, who's a monster with lyrics. He's so tight. You got Big Al, who might have been one of the greatest rappers ever. And I mean, like, you got that, right? So already, and like that's what I'm saying. You got that already making like a crazy, crazy super group, right? So, and then him working with Digging in the Crates, he had his own unique style that just really carried him. And I mean, this is a guy that was like, influenced by like all the greats: Cool G Rap, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick. He made his debut on Organized Confusion. This was Pharaoh Monk's rap group before he went solo, right? Called Fudge Pudge. He made an appearance on the remix of MC Search's Back to the Grill, which features a young Nas as well. And I mean, following the tour with all that, he signed a Wild Pitch. Search was vice president. He also met Lord Finesse Buck Wild and started making on his album. And I mean, he worked with Big L on his record. He was tight. His style was, what makes him a great MC is his style is remarkably his own. It's very distinct and unique, but that's what makes it cool. Okay. Next, we got at 83, Master P, the king of the South, the original Southern Jay-Z, we could say, right? Like, he built No Limit Records. He helped put Snoop Dogg on. He helped put on Slick the Shocker. He helped a lot of artists. His son is Little Romeo. And I mean, I'll put it this way. Master P had that bout it. Like, that was kind of his style. And I mean, he really laid the foundation for what you hear a lot of the Southern rappers doing later on in the other eras. It's not that there weren't other Southern rappers, but you look at Southern rappers now, they're all kind of following the Master P blueprint. Like your Bun B's, your Slim Thugs, all that kind of stuff, right? They following, and Slick the Shocker was, a part of his crew. Like, they're all following that Master P style. And I mean, you hear his verse on I think it's called 4321, LL Cool J's song, right? There's the remix. Yeah, 4321. His verse is so good. Like, he holds his own. And I mean, you got monsters on this track. This ain't an easy track to compete with lyricists on. You got LL Cool J. You got Cannabis Beast. You got DMX, who goes hard. You got Redman. You got Method Man. That's already an incredible lineup we talking right there, right? And then you got Master P, and he holds his own. He got his own style. Man, shit he says goes hard, yo. And that's what I'm saying, yo. We need to, give Master P his due in this credit. Plus, as a businessman, he was very significantly important to hip hop as well, outside of the music tip. So, for reals, his importance needs to be recognized, right? Next at 80, because I did that wrong. Okay. Let me correct that. I'm gonna remove that. All right, I'm gonna remove that and retype it because I put 84. Sorry, I think I am finally starting to get sleepy, which is good. Maybe I'll sleep after this. I meant to put 83. Okay, so 83 is Master P. 82 is Shabazz the Disciple, who really became known as an affiliate of the Gravediggers at first. Like, you hear his verse, he's got the first verse on Diary of a Madman. And he did release like some underground stuff. He appeared on Sons of Man and like Woo affiliate stuff, mostly Gravedigger stuff. But I mean, his verses, even Pun loved Shabazz the Disciple, right? Because he had these wild, crazy ways of expressing things. Like, he talked about putting a hook in somebody's temple and dragging them. Like, he talk about demons and all this weird stuff possessing him to kill people. He had this wild persona. And sometimes they called him Shabazz the Scientist as well, because he really was like a mad scientist in the lab with his rhymes, like mixing stuff together, and he was crazy. But that's why I had to put this dude on the list too, because this is a guy that when I heard Diary of a Madman, I literally had to search for everything this dude ever rapped on, because like that verse, like I said, people go, if you don't know who I'm talking about, go listen to the Gravedigger song Diary of a Madman and just listen to that first verse that he does. Like, it's so good and so like wild and frightening that it's like, man, I don't even know how to. And like I said, he did release solo records. They never really became major critical successes the way he probably deserved or they should have been. This is another dude who would have made a song with me too for 3 grand. I ain't got 3 grand, but I would have loved to have this guy on a song. Actually, I always imagined that one of the perfect songs I could make would be to have Shabazz the Disciple, me, and Cannabis on track. Wouldn't that be freaking fire, yo? Like, oh my god, the three of us with all these crazy wild styles, man. We'd be eating MCs for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. Like each of us would be eating an MC for a meal on that track. Let me go first, let Shabazz go second, then let Cannabis come in and just, I'll eat him for breakfast. Shabazz will eat him for lunch. Cannabis will eat him for dinner, and it'll come full circle. Now, I did listen to his first album, right? I listened to the Book of Shabazz, Hidden Scrolls, and that album is phenomenal. I mean, Oasis, BKBS, Crematum, Thieves in the Night, Ghetto Apostles. I mean, this guy was so underrated. Like I said, if you don't know who I'm talking about, go check out Shabazz the Disciple for reals. So I decided, you know what? We're going to do this in sections of 20 songs at a time because we're already almost at an hour. I'm getting tired. It's after 2 in the morning. So we're going to just do a couple more. So that's 82, 81, 80. Okay, I'll get to 80 because that only leaves 2 more. So for 81, we got Twista. Now, Twista is most known for Slow Jam, right? With Kanye West, Jamie Foxx, great song too. But this guy started long before that, and I mean, I'll put it this way: his one record, I believe it was called Kamikaze. I have to make sure I don't want to get this wrong, right? I want to have my history accurate when I talk about this. But I mean, he was uh he was a great rapper, not only because of his speed, but because of his unpredictability. I mean, he started off with running off at the mouth, and he was going by tongue twister then. You hear that when he was still kind of more underground. Then he moved on to Resurrection. He was dope, man. I mean, he had marketing issues with Resurrection because Common, who was on the same label, released an album of the same title at the time. So it didn't work out too well for him. And then he dropped Adrenaline Rush. He dropped Tongue from his stage name. And then, he started releasing stuff like Mob Stability. He collaborated on Twisted Heat, Memphis Bleak. He did the song called "Is That Your Chick?" The Lost Verses from the album Understanding. The song he did with Rough Riders and Dragon was Twisted Heat. Just so we get that clear. But yeah, Kamikaze, Kamikaze. Um, he had a song with Ludacris on that album too. I remember. See, I was trying to think what was the other song from that album that was a joint. Oh yeah, Pimp On was a great one. Overnight Celebrity was a great song. Higher was good. Like a 24, like a 24, 24. I'm not sure. It's been so long I forget how you would describe that title. But that album alone, I'm like, and his speed, his lyrics, like he comes up with clever things. He's not even just rapping fast. Like he's got the Bone Thug really fast rapping thing mastered, but it's the lyrics he's spelling out to you in between that are like really complex and thought provoking. Like that's why I loved Overnight Celebrity as an example of that. Like slow jams to the jam, but you listen to Overnight Celebrity, he's really breaking down like the shocker, how he's working with Kanye and all these other people, and all of a sudden he's blowing up. Yet he's kind of been doing this so long for going so far back, right? You dig? So that's why, yeah, I gotta give Twister his props for that. Of course, shout outs, like I said, to Shabazz too, for the offer and all the other rappers who agreed to do stuff. And then number 80, this will be our concluder for the evening. We have Ghostface Killer. I mean, Ghostface Killer. This one kind of feels like it's a given, man. Like it's hard to even say too much about this because Ghostface Killer, besides being a fantastic member of the Wu-Tang Clan, I could say I loved a lot of his solo stuff too. Like I loved when he dropped Supreme Clientele. I loved when he did Fish Scale. I mean, Fish Scale was actually such a phenomenal album. I'm trying to remember, was Fish Scale the album he did the Champ? Cause yo, the Champ was one of my favorite records ever. I mean, that's what made me really get into Ghostface Killer as just you know, as a solo artist. I'm trying to remember. What record was the Champ on? Cause yeah, it was that one other album. And that one was just it was dope. It was so fresh. Like I'm just trying to remember what album that was on. And then yeah, that'll probably be it. Might have been the Pretty Tony album. That sounds about right time wise. But I remember it was the one with the Champ. Huh, maybe it was farther back than that. Couldn't fly shit, beat the clock. It's over. Holla. Yeah, it must have been before that. I'm like, what album was that? Cause yo, that still to this day was one of my favorite songs by him. I wish I could remember because that album too. I remember I was big on that album. Maybe it was Supreme Clientele because that was a. I'm gonna look it up because that's gonna bother me. I can't even conclude this broadcast till I figure that out. Oh, it was it fish scale? I'm like, yo, that actually doesn't surprise me that much. I gotta look that up. Like they're saying it was on the fish scale, right? So I'm like, okay, let me look that up because yo, that actually makes sense because fish scale was an album I did listen to a lot. I did like Supreme Clientele, so I was thinking, was it Supreme Clientele? Was it fish scale? What album was the Champ on? Yeah, oh, okay, yeah, Supreme Clientele. That's right. Okay, the Champ, yo. That because Just Blaze did the beat to that, and it's such a hype beat. And I mean, he had the track Three Bricks with Notorious B.I.G. and Raekwon on that. He had Back Like That, the big single with Neo, which is such an amazing song. So laid back, so smooth, so sad, melancholic, which Ghostface is really good for that. Really tackling emotional issues with his rap too. And like the dude is just nice, man. He hits you from all angles and you just don't see it coming. You see him now, you don't. Like Ghostface Killer, he moved like a ninja. He is stealthy and he is deadly, and that's why like I gotta give Ghostface props. So that rounds us off to number 80. Hope you enjoyed this, and of course we will continue going through the list next episode, which we'll probably do tomorrow night. Keep it going. And yeah, till then, much love, peace, and shout outs to all the legends I mentioned. And of course, all the legends we'll get to in the future episodes. So yeah, we'll probably do like, especially because I want to take time to explain why I'm putting these people in my top 100 list, right? Take time to explain it. So we'll probably make each episode about this length, talk about 20 each time until we get to number one. So keep watching. Stay tuned. We will count down all the way to number one. But so far, we covered all the way from 100 to 80. So tomorrow night, we will get 79 and move forward. So till then, take care. Much love. Peace. Oyasumi nasai minasan. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Matane. Peace out.